Okay, thanks for that reminder, guys. So again, this is our session on alerts and notifications, and we're going to talk about how to set up email notifications for cardholders, approvers, and program administrators. We're going to talk about how cardholders can set up their account alerts and how you all can use the bulk setup process for account alerts as well. And we'll talk about email notifications versus event-driven notifications, and then we'll talk about our email center that you can use to communicate with your folks in your program. So we'll start with email notifications. And the email notification options are located under My Personal Information in the home page, and these are available for all groups. We've made these color-coded boxes here, so these will make more sense in a second, and it'll help you a little bit with the guide of which email notifications are relevant to which system users or members of your program. So when you click on My Personal Information, you'll see all the different options on that page, and specifically here we are going to email notifications. Now, if you wish to set up email notifications for others, you can go to System Administration and pull up their user profile. And then in the very bottom section under the contact information, you will see their email notification options so that you can set them for another user. However, we do encourage users to set them up themselves using My Personal Information and email notification. So at the top of the page, you'll want to verify your email address, of course. And then the first set of notifications are in reference to the data exchange. So there's an orange box and a green box around those two because they are relevant to program administrators and approvers and not necessarily cardholders. Now, the data exchange, in case you're not familiar, this is the mailbox of sorts. It's located right here in the main menu. And the data exchange is where your scheduled reports will appear. It's also where you can transfer files to and from the bank securely, such as things like a bulk account setup or your bulk alert setups that we're going to cover shortly. And you can receive email notifications for any data exchange activity or successful upload download or unsuccessful upload download. And you may want to set to all just at the beginning, and then perhaps if that's too many notifications, you could go to just the unsuccessful. Or if you want to be notified when you have a scheduled report available in Data Exchange, you can click this successful upload, and then you'll get a notification anytime you have a scheduled report or any other file that appears in your Data Exchange. The next notification is for cardholders, so it is highlighted in blue here, and it is for dispute status. So cardholders are recommended to select this notification so that if they have to dispute a transaction, they can be notified as to the status of that dispute as the process progresses. Scrolling further down the page, this top notification here, it's in gold because it's recommended for everyone, and it is the password expiration email notification. So if you want to be notified, and we do recommend this one, to be notified when your password is about to expire so that you can go ahead and reset it before you get locked out. And the email notification arrives 10 days prior and then again at 3 days prior to your password expiring. The next set of notifications are for cardholders and approvers. This one is the pending cardholders transaction approval, and this would be for a notification to be sent to cardholders anytime a transaction basically posts in Access Online, because all transactions do post in that pending cardholder travel or I'm sorry, pending cardholder transaction approval status. Now, if you're not using the approval process, that pending status doesn't have any bearing on billing or anything like that. It's just for the purposes of that transaction approval process if you're choosing to use it. And you can also consolidate this into either you can have a daily or a once weekly email for these notifications. Janice asks, what is the time frame for password expiration? Janice, that's a great question. That is set at the organization level. So if you go into one of your user profiles and then you look at that top section right below where their status is shown as active or what have you, it will give you that time frame for password expiration. It could be anywhere from 90 days to 365. So that's something that was selected at your organization level, and I'm not sure what that number is. Then the next approver notifications relates to approvers. And these would be notifications that the approvers would receive if a cardholder has approved their own transaction and then sent it to them in the system for further approvals. And again, you can consolidate this into a once weekly and select the day of the week that you would like to receive these as opposed to daily. The next notification is for program administrators, and this is related to effective date maintenance. So if you recall from our session on card maintenance, you do have the ability to select effective dates for card account changes, such as limits or status. And these notifications will let you know if there is any type of problem with any of those effective date maintenance actions. Those typically work very smoothly. We've worked very hard to ensure that those happen as they are set up. But in case there is something that goes wrong in the system or there's some kind of fluke, you should elect to receive notifications in case either of those types of maintenance effective dates fail. Now notice there's two of them because the controls are set up differently behind the scenes. So there's one for merchant authorization controls with effective dates or any other type of maintenance with effective dates. So it is a good idea to select those for just in case. The next set of notifications would apply to any users who are using the virtual pay. I'm not sure if Colorado is using virtual pay or not, or if you're doing payment requests or instructions. But if an approval is needed for a virtual payment request, you can receive notifications on that here, and then also detail those specifically to which actions that are related to that process you want to be notified for. And then here at the bottom of this page, there is a rejected transaction email notification, and this is for cardholders. So if cardholders have a transaction that they have approved and sent to the next level approver, and that next level approver does not approve that transaction but rejects it for some reason, perhaps due to an incorrect accounting code allocation or maybe the receipt wasn't attached or something, they can reject the transaction and send it back to the cardholder. And the cardholder should elect here to receive a notification if that happens, so they can go in and address that situation. And then scrolling further still down the page, this very last section here is for statement notifications. It's called account notifications. And these are in a gold box here because they can apply to any type of user. So cardholders should see their own account already listed here, and they just want to make sure that this statement box is checked so that they can receive an email notification when their statement is ready, and then they can access that in the system. And for those of you who have managing accounts that you want to view statements for, you can add a managing account or multiple managing accounts, and you can also add multiple cardholder accounts as well. So once you're at the bottom of this page and you've made all your selections for email notifications, of course, you will want to click Save. Any questions on email notifications before we move on? Okay. So now let's talk about cardholder account alerts. The cardholders have the ability to set up their own account alerts in Access Online. For administrators or approvers to receive alerts, we do have a slightly different process that I'll cover after this. So the account alerts, the cardholders do need to set them up themselves, and you could share these slides with them in the form of instructions to encourage them to set those up. And they're located under My Personal Information, and then at the very bottom of the page, card holders only will see this account alerts link. If you're looking at your own My Personal Information right now, you're not going to have this link unless you are also a card holder. And if you are also a card holder, you can set up account alerts here for your own account. But again, we have that bulk setup process to receive alerts for other accounts, and we'll cover that shortly. So when you click this link, you'll see some options here at the top. You'll want to verify your email and your mobile number in case you're choosing to receive text alerts. And if you are electing to receive text alerts, you can specify specific time frames, such as during business hours, or you can leave it set to receive alerts anytime. And that's actually recommended because in case there is some type of suspicious activity on your account, it could be happening outside of business hours, so you would be able to receive a notification as soon as that happens. So a little bit further down this page, if you have multiple accounts assigned to you, you will see a drop-down box to select the account that you want to select alerts for. If you only have one card account here for yourself that you're selecting alerts for, then it will just default here and show for you. There's a language output selection. If you were feeling particularly adventurous, you could try Canadian French for your alerts, but I'm not sure I would recommend that. And then there's 3 tabs here, and we'll go through each of these. So the first one is fraud alerts, and that one's pretty straightforward. And you can select either email or text or both. And that is, of course, any type of suspicious, potentially fraudulent activity. So then you would want to next click on the Events Alerts tab. And these are alerts related to sort of the status of the account. A card is requested, PIN is changed, personal information is changed. All of those things would be good alerts to select because they might be indicators of possible fraud or suspicious activity as well. So you can make your selections on that based on how closely you want to monitor. And then this third tab is for purchase alerts, and there's lots of different options here. We do recommend the purchase declined alert, and then there's also a purchase amount exceeds alert, and you can set a dollar threshold here. So if you, for instance, have a typical, parameter that you usually make purchases, and you wanted to receive an alert for a purchase that's outside of the norm, such as a $10,000 purchase or something crazy like that, you can set that limit here. I do know at least one program administrator who set this for $1 so that they would receive an alert each time a purchase is made, so that they can be aware of all the activity on the card. Kay asks, can PAs also get an alert when a purchase is declined? Yes, Kay, that is possible, and I will show you how PAs can receive alerts with that bulk setup process when we're done with this part. Good question. There's also alerts for balance reaches or exceeds, and this would be a percent. So you could say 50% of your limit, 75, and then 90 perhaps if you wanted to do that. And again, you can select email or text or both. The next one is payment due. Typically this is only used for individual bill, but you can receive an alert with 14 days or less before a payment is due. And then scrolling down the page further, we do recommend the alert for cash withdrawn, especially if you don't typically use cash withdrawal as part of your card program, because again, that could be an indicator of fraud or suspicious activity. You can also set alerts for account balance or available credits and determine the threshold there. And then there's also alerts for purchase type. For instance, if you don't typically use the card via mail or telephone, you could receive an alert on that. And then also there are alerts related to merchant types. So this drop down here would show you the different merchant types, and you may want to select high risk categories, you know, such as gambling or liquor stores or check cashing establishments, things like that. Again, in effort to notify any or be alerted to any suspicious activity. And then finally, at the bottom of the Purchase Alerts tab, there are some geographical parameters. So you could say if a purchase is made outside of the state of Colorado, or if it's made outside the U.S., or you can set a radius from a zip code to receive alerts if a purchase is made outside of that radius as well. And then down here at the bottom, you need to read the terms and conditions for the text notifications due to, oh, I forget the acronym, but it's the Communications and Advertising legislation, you know, for spam and that. So you would need to check that in order to receive texts. And then when you're done, you can submit. So Terry asks, for purchases outside the country, does this refer to the vendor location in case of online purchases? Yes, Terry, it does. It does. It refers to the location of the vendor where the purchase is being made. Yes. Okay, so let's talk about how approvers and administrators can receive these alerts. So we have a newer process, and it is the approver or biller and program administrator account alert enrollment form. And you can get this from your implementation folks or from your account coordinator or your relationship manager. And it's a spreadsheet that looks like this. And basically these are the alert types. These little red triangles on each section, if you hover over, it will give you an explanation of what that field means or what information should go into it. And you put in your user ID, the account ID for the card that you want to receive the alert for, and then your email address. And then you can complete the rest of the form as well. So basically you can receive this form and enter in all the information for your cardholders, and then that is how you would become enrolled in alerts for all of your card accounts. Now, there is a second step to this. There is a special functional entitlement group that you need to have assigned to receive these alerts, and it's called Only Alert Management for PA Alert Mass Enrollment Process, and that's a mouthful. But you'll see it on your functional entitlement groups, and you want to select that for yourself or any other administrator or approver who is going to be on this form to receive cardholder alerts. So let's take a look at some scenarios of what these alerts can do for you and how you can use them. So this is Max, and he's an approver, and he's concerned about excessive card usage in his department. So what alert could we use to help Max with monitoring his card usage? It would be the setup purchase exceeds, and then he can set the amount as low as $1, and then he would receive alerts anytime the card is used for that dollar amount purchase or larger. Next we have Carrie, who is a finance person, and she's concerned about the spending in her division aligning with the budget. So the alert that we could use to help Carrie with this is setting up the account balance is alert and specifying an amount at or near her budget parameter. Pamela asks, would a PA get an alert for a declined transaction through that form? Yes. Yes. If you were to select, let me go back, the request types here, this is a drop-down box, and declined transaction is one of them. So you would select decline transaction, and then you can, of course, copy this down the page and then put your accounts in here that you want to receive those decline transaction alerts for. Good question. Okay, our next scenario is Terry, and she's a PA. She's concerned about her cardholders remembering to pay their statements. Because unlike many organizations, the cardholder is responsible for payments, and the alert that could help Terry with monitoring that is to set up a payment made alert. And then she could, of course, monitor and follow up with anyone who has not made their payment. So those are just a couple of examples of how you can use these alerts. There's many, many other options. Now let's talk about event-driven notifications. So these are in a separate section on your main menu, and these can be used by program administrators or approvers. And events-driven notifications are email notifications, and they relate to very specific activity on your accounts in your hierarchy of responsibility. So there's a drop-down box here with many different options. We're going to go through these. And the account administration request outside standards is the first one. This one is basically to receive an email notification if there is some type of account opened with some sort of exception criteria. Let's say, for instance, that typically the cardholders have a limit of $5,000. And if someone opens an account or increases the credit limit on an account to something beyond that standard amount, then you would receive an event-driven notification for that so that you can follow up and monitor for any unusual activity. The next one is active work queue activity. So your active work queue, again, remember, is where you can go to see your works in progress. For instance, if you were setting up a new card account and you know how long that form is, right? So maybe you get interrupted in the middle of that and you save your work, then you can go back to your active work queue later and select that as a work in progress and then finish it. And this would notify you via email if there are actions in that active work queue that need your attention, just in case you feel like you might forget to go back and finish that card request. This next one is card account annual credit reassessment, and this may or may not apply to your organization, but basically this would be a notification that relates to annual review of credit limits. If you wanted to review those on an annual basis, you could receive an event-driven notification when it is time to take a look at that credit limit and see if it needs to be increased or decreased. This next one is dormant accounts, and you can set time frames on this anywhere from, I believe, 30 days to 180 days. And you would receive a notification if there are any accounts that have not been used in that time frame so that you can check to see whether or not that account needs to be closed or follow up with the cardholder, etc. This next one is managing account notification for cardholder account activity, and that's another mouthful. Basically what this notification does is it alerts you on the managing account level to the activity that cardholders are doing with their accounts, and that would include things like the approval process. So if you wanted to, for instance, get an event-driven notification that would notify you of folks who have completed their transaction approval process so that you can contact the ones that have not, then this notification might be helpful for you. The next one is past due accounts, and that one's pretty straightforward. You can receive notifications for accounts that are 30, 45, 60, or 90 days past due. The next one is transaction exceeds single purchase limit. So this would be specific to the single purchase limit versus a declined transaction for exceeding the overall credit limit. So if you have that single purchase limit in place and you're using that to monitor the dollar amounts of your specific transactions, then you can receive an email notification for transactions that exceed that limit. This next one is also pretty straightforward. It's transactions that are posted to a closed account so that you can go in and address those if necessary. And then this last one, I'm not sure that it would apply to Colorado. It's unmatched order entries. So some organizations use a process in Access Online called order management. And this would be where you would enter information like for a purchase order. And then when the transaction is posted, they would match the posted transaction to that purchase order in the system. And it's just another way to kind of reconcile. So if you're not using that process, you can disregard that last one. Brenda asks, are these definitions found somewhere so that we have them after today's session? Yes. Brenda, they are in the deck in the notes section of the PowerPoint slides, but there is also a user guide that you can access on the web-based training site. So you would just search for event-driven notifications, and then you'll find that user guide, and it has a full explanation of each of these. So let's take a little bit deeper dive. Let's see, Charles says, is there a way to have the PO number print on the statement? Charles, that is a really good question, and I do not know the answer to that. I will have to check on that and follow up. Let me just make a note. Okay, I will look into that question and get back to you on that. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into how to set up these notifications, and for that we're going to, excuse me, we're going to use the example of the past due accounts event-driven notification. So when you click on that selection here in the drop-down box, then you'll see a form, and you can name your event-driven notification. It'll give you like the name that the system gives it, but then you can customize it. For instance, you could have this one set to like 30 days and then call it past due accounts 30, and then do another one for 45 and another one for 90, etc. And then the parameters here is where you would select the past due time frame. And then you want to select the hierarchy that this notification should apply to. And this little box here is kind of off where it should be, but right here is a link to search for the hierarchy. And then once you've selected your hierarchy, then all of the accounts within that hierarchy will be subject to this notification. And you can define it by processing hierarchy or reporting hierarchy. In this case, processing hierarchy is more relevant because it relates to billing. If it were something like that cardholder activity for the managing account level, you would want to choose reporting hierarchy because reporting hierarchy is related to the transaction approval process. But typically, processing hierarchy will do the trick. And then you do have a third option here to select specific accounts, and you can search for specific accounts, or you can just enter the account number if you wanted to receive an event-driven notification for specific accounts versus all the accounts in a hierarchy. And then down here at the bottom, you can select the frequency of that notification. You can get it daily, weekly, or a specified day during the week, or monthly or cycle, monthly on cycle day, or monthly at the day of the month that you select. And once you've made all your selections, of course, you will want to save. So the hierarchy selection looks like this. It's pretty much the same hierarchy selection process that you use in other parts of the system. You can set it from agent level all the way down to company, which is your managing account level. You don't have to fill in any of these fields here. You can just do a search, and then you'll see your hierarchy search results at the bottom. You'll want to click the Show Hierarchy Names link, and then you'll see the hierarchy labels that make sense to you. And you'll use the checkbox to select that hierarchy, and then click the Select Position button to bring it over here to the right as a selected hierarchy. And of course, anytime you are selecting hierarchies, you want to make sure and click that Accept Hierarchy before you go back to your notification detail. And then again, you can select your frequency, and of course, you'll always want to save. When you click Save, you'll see that your request is successfully saved, and then you'll see that notification as active on your list. And you can click down here to add a new notification of any type from that drop-down box list. Or if you wanted to edit this for some reason, you can click on the link here. And you do have the ability to change it to inactive for a period of time if you want to, or you can remove the notification altogether. And there is a lot more information about event-driven notifications in our user guide for alerts and notifications. So let's look at some examples of how these event-driven notifications might help you. So Terry, our program administrator, wants to monitor accounts that have not been used for 6 months so that she can investigate if they need to be closed. And the EDN that can help Terry with this is the dormant accounts, EDN or event-driven notification. In our next example, we've got our finance person, Carrie, and she wants to monitor the new annual credit limits being set up for the cardholders in her division. So the EDN that would help her with that is the Account Administration Request Outside Standards. And then we have Max, the approver, and he wants to monitor if cardholders are approving their transactions to make sure that that's done in a timely manner. And Max could use the event-driven notification for cardholder account activity at the managing account level. Any other questions on event-driven notifications or anything else that we've covered so far? Okay. So now let's talk about our email center. The email center is an Access Online feature that allows you to generate lists of emails for all of your system users and cardholders. And it's helpful because you can use this list as sort of a shortcut, of course, from creating your own distribution lists. So if you wanted to communicate something about your spending policies or any other type of communication related to the card program, you can pull a list of the email addresses in that particular part of the hierarchy or your whole organization, and be assured that the communication will go to everyone. So the email center is located down here underneath the main menu. And when you click that link, you'll be taken to the selection process for setting up those email center lists. So the first thing you'll do is select if you're going to choose your recipients by accounts, by selecting individual accounts, or if you want to use your processing hierarchy or reporting hierarchy. And again, these two can be somewhat interchangeable. I would always default to processing hierarchy if you're not sure, because again, that relates to billing. So you can be sure that everyone gets included. So once you've made your selection, we'll look at the account access first. So this is our drop-down box, and then we can do an account search, or we can put in the account ID if we know it, and then your selected accounts will appear down here at the bottom. And you can choose up to 25 for each export. Now, when you're choosing your accounts, you have some options for showing and hiding the search criteria. If you just want to go with the default, which is usually sufficient, then you can just click your search button there, and then you'll see, again, some more options for those search results. And once you have found your accounts, then you can select them using the checkboxes. Now, if you're going to use the processing or reporting hierarchy, you would choose that in this first drop-down for selecting recipients by. And then you can choose cardholder account or managing accounts, either one. And if you do choose managing account, it would be all of the owners of the managing accounts. So if you want to get down to the cardholder level, it's a good idea to choose cardholder account instead. And then it does default to all cardholder statuses, but you can change that using the drop-down box. You could do just open accounts or, you know, just blocked accounts or what have you. And then you would click your search link here to select the hierarchy. So Wendy asks, what if they are not a cardholder and only an approver? Is there a selection to pick them? That is a great question. Let me think about that for a second. You could select approvers by using the managing account option instead of cardholder accounts, assuming that you have an approver tied to each of your managing account levels, which is typically the case. So if you wanted to do an email list export for all of your approvers, then you would choose managing account here instead of cardholder account, and that would give you the list of your approvers. Great question. Had to think on that one for a second. All right, so once you have done your hierarchy search and selected your hierarchies, they will appear here, and you can have up to 25. And then you would choose whether you're going to export to your email program or to Excel, and you can do either one. So if you were to email or export to your email program, it will use your default email, such as Outlook or whatever it is you're using. And you'll see this pop-up box that says, do you want to allow this website to open a program on your computer? And you would want to say allow. And then you'll have a new email open, and all of the emails in those hierarchies will appear in the BCC line. And then you can start your email, or you could save this as a template if you wanted, so that you can send your communication. If you choose instead to export to Excel, then you will see an Excel pop-up, and it'll have the account name and the email address. And of course, it'll export to whatever version of Excel you have installed on your device. So any other questions on the email center? Okay. Well, we can't let a training session go by without talking about our web-based training site. So I'm going to go ahead and just mention that again really quick. It's probably a repeat for some of you, but maybe not everyone has seen this yet. So we do have an incredible resource in our web-based training site. You can click on the training link at the close to the bottom of your main menu here. And then you will see our web-based training site, and each of these blue bars expands into a topic section. The information that relates to, let me see, I don't think this is the right screenshot. I believe that the options related to alerts and notifications would be under Configure the System. And you can choose lessons or user guides. You can watch a quick video. We have quick reference guides, and we also have recorded classes for our commercial and government clients, but of course you have your own recorded classes to refer to. And if you wanted to find something specific without trying to wade through all this information, you can do a search on account alerts or event-driven notifications or email notifications, and then you'll see a list of resources that relate to that search topic here under the search. Okay, so with that, I'll open it up to any remaining questions. And we'll just take a look here and see if there are any additional questions. Feel free to ask anything. We've got about 15 minutes left, so we may finish a little early, which I'm sure everyone would like to have a few extra minutes back in your day. But we're happy to take questions. Okay, Wendy asks, where is the bulk alert spreadsheet located? That is a great question, Wendy. That bulk alert spreadsheet is available from your account coordinator. You could also request it from your implementation contact. I'm not sure exactly what stage you all are in yet. Does anyone know who your account coordinator is? Not sure that that's been defined yet, but you should have that information. And if you don't have it, then Michelle Garcia definitely would. Brenda asks, what would be the purpose of using the Excel export on email alerts versus actually doing the email? Brenda, that's a good question. It could be that you wanted to save the list of your email addresses in an Excel spreadsheet and then use and then copy and paste them into an email from Excel. If you wanted to save the list versus just creating it for the purposes of one email. So that's why the Excel export is available. Teresa asks, do you have a specific folder for the recorded training we attended? Teresa, the recordings and the presentations are all going to be available on your OSC site, is what I have been told. And we're uploading those daily as the classes are completed, and they should be available on your OSC site pretty shortly. I believe someone named Rick is in charge of that. Brenda asks, so if you use email, it only applies to that email and doesn't hold for others. Yes, Brenda, that is correct. If you export to an email, then you can use those email addresses for that specific email. Now, what you could do is you could save the email without sending it, and then like save it as a draft, and then you would have the email addresses in your email, and then you could just copy and paste them into a new email so that you don't have to pull the email export each time. But keep in mind if there's cardholders or approvers that are coming and going, if you save that email export, it's going to show who emails are available on that specific date. So, if it gets to be a while, then you may want to redo it to make sure that you have everyone current. What other questions are there? All right. Well, if everybody can just give me a green check if you're good to go, I would appreciate it. It's at the bottom of your participant list. Just give me a green check. Thank you for those green checks. Okay, and I don't see any more questions coming in, so I'll hang on for a moment or two, but I think that pretty much brings us to a wrap. So thank you all so much for attending our training sessions. We hope they've been helpful. We are available to assist you ongoing. We very much appreciate your business. Glad to have you on board, and anything that we can do to help you in your transition and getting used to the new system, we would be more than glad to assist you. So please utilize us and all of your resources. And I wish you all very good luck in getting started with your new card program. So again, I'll hang on for a moment in case there's any additional questions, but that does bring us to a close. So I thank you so much and hope everybody has a great rest of your day. All right, Simona says, thank you for the training. Thank you, Simona. I was looking for more one-card training and or demo. Is that something available by U.S. Bank? Simona, the one card, are you looking for training on the particular characteristics of that card versus how it works in Access Online? Or give me a little bit more of an idea of what you're looking for so I can point you to the right person. How it works, this will be our first time using the one card. Okay. Okay. I would refer you, I think, back to Michelle Garcia, Simona. She should be able to provide you with a little bit more information about how you all will be using the one card. I mean, the card itself works the same way as the other cards. It's just a card that can incorporate both purchasing functions and travel versus, just having a straight purchasing card or a straight corporate travel card. So that's its main purpose, but in terms of the details of how it works for your specific program, that's something that Michelle should be able to help you with, or you could go to your account coordinator. Thank you. And Danette says, I'm a bit confused about cardholders paying their statements each month. Danette, that is not, I believe, applicable for Colorado. Some of our clients do have individual bill set up on their program so that the cardholders are responsible for making payments each month. So, we do have some alerts and things related to that. But my understanding is that you all are corporately billed, so that's not applicable. And you say, phew, I agree. Makes it much simpler. All right. Any final questions? All right. Seeing no further questions, we'll go ahead and bring the session to an end. Thank you again for joining. Bye-bye.